Sam Reed became Washington's 14th Secretary of State in 2000, and he has overseen many events since taking office, including the closest race ever for governor when Chris Gregoire narrowly defeated Dino Rossi. The subject today is voting in our state. And Mr. Secretary, thanks for being a guest on Northwest Notebook. We have an all-mail-in primary here in Whatcom County. What do you think of that system?
I like vote by mail. I know people have very strong opinions for and against it, but there are a couple of reasons why. The most important, from my experience, and I've experienced vote by mail since 1984 when I conducted as the Thurston County auditor the first vote by mail election in the state. What I find is we get a better informed electorate. They take the time because that ballot is sitting in their home. They're not as likely just to vote for a candidate because the name rings a faint bell, right, or vote for an issue.
They'll do more research.
Yeah, or vote for an issue because they happen to see an ad or something. And I think that is very important, particularly given the complexity of our ballots here in the state of Washington. It also, frankly, just fits the lifestyle of Americans in the 21st century. I am nostalgic about the old polling sites and back in the...
Standing in line.
Yeah, well, and neighbors and
Sure.
all that. But, you know, how many people now know their neighbors from a couple blocks away? That just isn't the case anymore. So it really does fit. And then finally, one thing I used to hate were the last-minute hit pieces. People would time it so they land Monday or, or even over the weekend against candidates. You can't do that anymore because those ballots are mailed out so early. So I think that is a big advantage too.
You know, a lot of citizens feel like their votes don't count. We can all go back all the way to 2000 with Gore and Bush. And integrity is the cornerstone of democracy, voting integrity. How can we assure our voters that their votes indeed count?
Well, you're absolutely right. And I think because of Florida, because of some of our problems with the recount here, some of the rumors about Ohio and some other things, we are having a problem of the voters having trust and confidence in the system. We've taken some very dramatic steps here in the state of Washington, including getting a centralized statewide voter registration system for the first time in our history. It's operating out of the Secretary of State's office. I now have the authority to clean those voter registration rolls in terms of getting felons off the rolls, deceased off the rolls, duplicates, which we can do seeing statewide. People are registered in more than one county. That's worked very well, but I just don't do it by our computer telling us, by the way. We send it back to the county, and like here in Whatcom County, the county auditor's office will check to make sure we have the right person. But since it was instituted in January of last year, some 343,000 voter registrations have been removed from the rolls. Many of them are the normal ones, that cancel, but we were able to get in and really clean up the rolls better than before. We also passed a major election reform package that made several changes in the process, particularly looking at some of the problems in King County and addressing those. So the voters of the state of Washington, I think, have plenty of reason to feel like the system is improving and their vote will count.
How do we take the politics out of voting? I know that it might be difficult, but how do we do that? There have been complaints that, so-and-so voting machine company supports candidate Y, therefore the voting machines are rigged. How do we get the politics out of it? Is it possible?
The reality is that most of that is just rumors and conspiracy theories and all that. It was interesting after the gubernatorial recount, I met with the Speaker of the House, Frank Chopp, and the beginning of session. And he met with me because he was thinking of changing the county auditor's positions and the Secretary of State position to nonpartisan, to basically get the politics out of it. And I said, well, that's interesting. Well, tell me, was there any partisanly elected county auditor, or I as a partisan, who did anything you felt that was done for partisan reasons? Well, no, said he. I said, well, then why would you change it? In other words, I think I think the rumors and suspicions far exceed the reality here.
Well, you look at a case in point like Katherine Harris in Florida, who then ended up running for public office, and
Right.
I think a lot of people felt she was in the back pocket of the Republican Party. That may not be true, but I think it was perceived that way.
I think it was perceived that way, but again, that's the person, you see.
Right.
Not because you and I know, quote, nonpartisan officials who are like in city council positions, mayor positions, who we know very well how they are hardcore Democrats or Republicans,
Sure.
and they play politics. So it isn't like changing the label is going to change it. Plus, really the same is true with the election equipment companies. We do so many checks. The federal government does checks. They run through labs. We have a certification program here in the state of Washington. We require the locals to check as well as us. So it isn't like a person, who builds a machine or something is going to be able to change the outcome of elections.
Secretary of State Sam Reed, thanks for being a guest on Northwest Notebook and talking voting.
Well, thank you.